Another starport going down for Fantasy, this sort of back location behind his natural. And I think he's just going to try to pump more dropships. Oh, and losing a dropship there very carelessly, just flying it right between two turrets. But Fantasy does have a big tank force right in the middle. So he's pressing out now, and a big push into the middle. Big siege line there for C, but a lot of C's tanks go down very quickly. And I think Fantasy was using other units like SCVs to absorb fire there, and did a very good job of it, because he came out of that exchange significantly ahead. Now he's sieging up again. Last few tanks from C on the siege line are probably going to go down. We'll see. Okay, it looks like the siege lines are out of range of each other now. But players are both at 4 bases, so relatively even in economic terms. I think Fantasy's still a bit ahead in terms of SCV count, but C could have evened it up by now. It looks like Fantasy's saturation is a bit better. Second control tower going down for C, so C definitely is going for mass dropships. And we have yet to see those Valkyries come into action, but it could still happen. Oh, nice little Goliath drop here on top of those tanks. Confusing Goliaths with Valkyries for whatever reason. Both require an armory to build, so I guess that makes some sense. Big push coming up the left side now for Fantasy. And we'll see if he's able to break this line. It looks like he's falling back, so he's not going to be able to. But he does have 3 tanks established there. Loses a couple Goliaths sort of carelessly. But something going down back there. Another barracks, so he can build more factories. Both players have been losing multiple barracks here, I think, in this game. Ultimately, I think control of this game is going to come down to those middle bases. You can see there's a series of 4 expansions sort of running along the equator of the map, more or less. And whoever can claim those is going to be in a position to take charge of the game resource-wise. And it may end up, they may end up splitting it 50-50 with maybe C taking the right side and Fantasy taking the left. I imagine would be more natural, or vice versa, possibly. But Fantasy's going to try to claim that left side 9 o'clock base. And if he does, that'll put him ahead momentarily, but I would imagine C will probably respond with an expansion of his own pretty fast. C does have solid control of the right side at the moment. So for now, the map is split 50-50. And as soon as that barracks is built, it's being floated out again to die. Oh, and now we see the Valkyries coming out. And C does see those Valkyries. So he at least knows they exist now if he didn't before. It might be a little bit more wary with his dropships. Bunch of dropships out for Fantasy. And it looks like they're going to move up the right-hand side. Oh, and then the Valkyrie's leading the way just to absorb fire. Fantasy realizes that the Valkyries are pretty useless, so he just sends them in as to take hits for his dropships. So sacrificial Valkyries paying off because all of those forces got down. And C looking sweatier than ever right now because he's taking a lot of damage inside his main. This was a great drop by Fantasy. And dropships pressing in prematurely, they're being warded off by those Goliaths. And C will be able to clean this up in a little bit, but he's lost a lot of supply. And he won't be able to build units probably for a little while, because I think he lost more supply than he lost supply worth of units. Unsieging 2 of his tanks for some reason. He probably could have done more damage with him siege there, but they do get mopped up, so C's back in control of his main. So not game ending there, but a bit of a hit to C from Fantasy. Meanwhile, Fantasy doesn't have that base up and running. I guess the command center must have either been cancelled or destroyed by these tanks of C's. So still running on 4 bases to 4, a little bit of a push here from Fantasy. And pretty successful. It looks like he will manage to take this left side contain of C's out. C has a couple dropships, but C's been consistently behind in dropship count most of this game, so C has a lot less mobility now. And with all these ridges and ramps and stuff on this map, mobility is extra important in TVT. Because moving your army by land sometimes requires you to go a really roundabout direction. Oh wow, and C's left side base is now under attack. And he's having to pull SCVs, but there's a very deep siege line there for Fantasy, so Fantasy's going to be able to kill a lot of those SCVs. And I think C's making a mistake. He's just feeding these SCVs sort of into the maw of this tank force. More tanks pressing up for Fantasy, and C's very much on the back foot now. He's stayed within shouting distance of Fantasy all game, but just barely, and it's always, you know, you have to have something going for you in StarCraft. You have to be ahead in something. If you're behind in economy, you have to be ahead in tech or ahead in forces on the ground, and even if C's not very far behind in anything, he's not ahead in anything. He hasn't really been ahead in anything the whole game. He was momentarily ahead in Air Force when he had those raids out, but that's about it. Yeah, behind in dropship count, behind in SCV count, and I think behind on forces on the ground. So we'll see what he's going to do. I mean, C's a smart player, so he has to realize that he needs to recoup the disadvantage that he's at this point. But Physics Lab now down for C, so that may be C's move. Maybe C is going to go battle cruisers. I really don't think that'll be successful. Oh, and that left side base has been forced to lift off, so C is now down to 3 bases. If he had plans to go battle cruisers, I think he's canceled them because really, what? I don't know if he's got 3 gas or if that inside 11 is mineral only, but certainly not enough bases mining to support battle cruisers, and his main's mined out, so definitely not battle cruisers. Sniping a dropship of Fantasy, so good move there. But he is dropping out forces there on the left side, and he's going to try to keep this left side base from going back up. It is back up, so C mopped up those forces momentarily, but this new force may be able to force the command center to lift again. Another dropship being sniped. A little bit careless play by Fantasy. And he's not going to have that spotting there, I think. Maybe he has another dropship, I guess. So he does have a spot on C's tanks on that ridge. And he's able to shell that base up there. So C very much behind, and the Korean Observer showing the Physics Lab again, wondering if C is going to try to go battle cruisers. I don't think he is. I don't think there's any way it could possibly work, and I think he realizes that. But at the same time, I don't know what could work. I mean, he has to even up this economic disadvantage he's at. Maybe he'll try to take that 3 o'clock position. If he can hold that, he would be ahead briefly if Fantasy does mine out this 3rd base of his. But that won't be for a little while, so... Now C is gonna... Looks like he was gonna drop. Posturing to drop. Yeah, he's gonna go in now and drop on top of the siege line. He will clear it up and be able to reclaim that 3rd base. I think. No, not enough forces in those dropships. Those dropships must not have been fully loaded. Now a big force of Fantasy is pressing up the middle, and a very weakened siege line for C. C was pulling all his forces to try to deal with that 3rd. And lots and lots of forces for Fantasy now claiming the middle. And with control of the middle of this map, you really restrict your opponent's mobility in TVT. C is not going to be able to transfer dropships across the middle from one side of the map to the other. He's going to have to go roundabout direction, and he's going to have to guard a lot more territory because C or Fantasy is going to have interior position, which in any sort of positional game is really important. But now we see that C has gone for battle cruisers. He's built 1. I don't know how much damage he's going to do with 1 battle cruiser. Maybe just try to snipe away at a couple tanks, but. If he hasn't put down more starports, even if he keeps producing battle cruisers 1 at a time, it's just going to deplete his forces on the ground, and Fantasy will roll over him eventually. Battle cruisers are great for a lot of things, but the one thing they're horrible at is shoring up a weak defensive siege line, because they have to have room to maneuver and be able to fall back so that Goliaths can't just swarm all over them and take them down with rockets. And two battlecruisers out now, but the thing is, if Fantasy is able to make a push through C's siege line, now showing his hand with the battlecruisers, the battlecruisers won't be able to do anything because they'll have to be falling back to avoid that Goliath fire. And sniping a couple of tanks with these battlecruisers, but I still think going for these was a mistake for C. Oh, and C actually has pushed down the left side, so I don't know how C did this, but he's forced that 3 o'clock expansion back. Fantasy bringing up a big force now. I think Fantasy is still fine. Fantasy has a large force there, so those battlecruisers aren't going to be able to touch that, at least for the moment. C may just be mining gas.